Hello, good morning, you all. How is everybody doing this morning? It's 6:39. I decided to get on early because I know I'm not gonna be able to get on this evening. Y'all know I try to get on every day. I know a lot of people are still asleep, but they should. If you're going to work, you should be up. I kind of be up with the chickens because I have to get up and let the puppies out and take them out to use the restroom because they be up early wanting to use the restroom and all of that. So I need to be at the gym this morning, but it's not daylight yet. Hey, Miss Clarinetta, you are up with me, darling. How are you? I want to do some early morning motivation, just like we used to do. It's Friday, and yeah, it's Friday, so I'm doing really good. I am doing so good. Yeah, I've been using um this product on my face, Melody Cherie's products. I have sensitive skin. Um when I was growing up, I had eczema, I had psoriasis, like just had I had eczema, period. And I had always gone to a dermatologist growing up. It started when I was in junior high school. And I had been going to a dermatologist forever, right? And so I remember I went, I remember I went to Walgreens pharmacy right there on Elvis Presley and Rains. And the pharmacist, I went there and I walked in and I was trying to get a refill. I thought I still had a refill, right? And so the doctor, the pharmacist was standing there. He was like, "Well, you don't have a refill. We'll have to reach out to your doctor." He says, "But that that ointment that he's giving you is equivalent to what's over the counter." And he was like, that cortisone. And I never had to go to the dermatologist again because I bought that. I started using it and it worked just like the medicated ointment that the doctor was giving me. Well, fast forward years later, because sometimes you can grow out of stuff, but I just had real sensitive skin because I be allergic to everything. That's why I don't like people putting their hands in my face. I don't like people kissing my face, stuff like that. Melody Cherie has a product that I have been using, and I promise you, like, she has a skincare line. It keeps my skin so um it just it's so it just got my skin so right. It do, and I have not had to use my ointment at all. I have not had to use my ointment. So what I do is she has a vegan skincare line. It's pretty expensive, but it is so worth it. I be trying to wait. Hey, Angel, the real boss. She said, so Tam, I will be vying the prayer line next week in orientation. Okay. Okay. Congratulations, Angel, the real boss. We have been praying for on the praying line. We have been praying for prosperity, healing, and wealth. That's the same thing, prosperity, but promotions and all of that. And God is so real. God is absolutely so real. So yeah, I would advise anybody to try Melody Cherie's line. I'd say she does like master classes, and I almost prayer absolutely works 100%. I almost she was running a sale. I almost got into her master class. I might just do that, you know. I said I was gonna start getting up under the mentorship because a lot of times that they give like master classes of millionaire women, women that are real millionaires, not people faking it until they make it, and they kind of getting your money and that's their get rich scheme. Women that are already rich off of making smart business moves. It is always good to you know, make a sow a seed and get into some of their classes to see you know what they've done or things of that nature. I kind of like to surround myself with stuff like that. I think it's a good investment to make. But I wanted to give like some early morning motivation. Um, you know, I was thinking about, you know, how as we, you know, move along in life and how we we kind of, hey Neo, we just kind of lose ourselves, you know, because everybody's you know, most people are just trying to survive. Everybody is trying to survive, but most people try to survive for themselves, believe it or not. Like they're not trying to come up off the backs of somebody else, but you know, they're trying to survive. And I think that it is imperative. I woke up thinking about that this morning. It's funny, when I woke up thinking about that, how I logged on YouTube, okay, and um, it was some videos came up about, you know, you have to be meticulous. She said snuck away from the office to get some breakfast. Happy Friday, Ashley. You have to be very meticulous about who you choose to allow in your inner circle and who you choose to trust, right? I know everybody wants to be able to confide in and trust somebody, but you just cannot. And you have to be careful about who you allow in your inner circle, okay? um, because salt and sugar looks exactly the same, right? And oftentimes you don't really know which is which until you taste it. And a lot of times the stuff that you choose to taste can poison you. Okay. So that's why you have to be very meticulous about that. And I know I get on here a lot and I make little jokes and stuff like that, you know. Um, we have fun on here all of the time, right? As adults. Um, but I am very careful about who I have in my circle, right? And each and every time, you know, as you get older, like I said, you want to trust people, you know, and God will allow you to test. And that's kind of what I do. You have to test people a little bit just to see what type of integrity they have sometimes. Because folks, I've never seen anything like I've seen. Folks will cry and roll and spit and slob just to try to get up under you, just so that they can put a knife inside of you. You would think that they would try to take that same energy and aggression and try and do something for themselves. Okay. If they took all of that energy and put it into trying to build something for themselves, they would be millionaires. But instead, they pride themselves on laying low, being slick, and getting up under somebody and bragging about, yeah, I was able to get up under them so I could backstab them. That takes a lot of damn energy. But here's the thing about it. Like I said, you know, God, the Bible speaks about you have to be wise, right? You have to be wise. You got to have a little craftiness in you. Okay, that's why when people go, "Oh, you're so sweet," I go, "I'm okay. I'm a good person." Okay, but I'm okay. I'm not as easy to maneuver as you would think that I am. I'm okay though. I'm not a bad person. I'm not going to do anything bad to you first. Okay. Because I think some people think I'm so sweet that I won't do anything bad at all. I always say I'm not gonna do anything bad to you first. You got to draw blood first, and if you do, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna find a way to get you, and it may not be the right thing. I be praying about that because see, I'm a loyal person. I'm a good, I'm a good person, and so I don't bother people. But and I think that's what we have to understand. I think that's what people make their mistakes at. They feel like even as it relates to people in their lives, like they go, "Well, I just can't believe I used to be like that." Because I was at one time I was real innocent and um trusting. And that was we all were like that, right? Especially because we all come from different walks of life. Okay. When I was trusting and I had not had a lot of experience in life. And I remember when I first started working for Memphis Police Department, that was my first real job. And I was working in the Felony Response Bureau and um just the type of stuff that I would see, the types of things, watching those officers and those investigators and stuff, they were different types of people. Okay, I'm talking about the low down. Okay, they weren't low down to me, but they were low down, and I remember I would say, I just can't believe that. That used to be, especially in my 20s, when I was having those growing pains. I just can't believe that. I just can't believe that. I just can't believe that. Oh my God, I just can't believe that they did that. And I couldn't believe it. And so I remember one of the investigators said, and a guy named Bass, he said, he said, Tam, I watch you and I could just tell that you ain't got no experience in life. He said, you always talking about you can't believe something. He said, believe it. Every man has some type of evil in them. Believe it, even me. And so, when we like people, we don't want to believe that they would do certain things, right? And so I said that to say this, see things for how they are. Trust God. And I think people put their trust in and said that's why I do that now. I trust God. Like things don't really bother me as much because I trust God. I test people, to see how they're gonna be. I might sometimes tell them a little something to see if it's gonna get out. Something that I don't really mind. And that's how I kind of test the fruit, right? You don't tell people something you don't want out, but just to see what type of integrity they have. And oftentimes they fail. Okay. And you can't be disappointed by that. That's just a way of testing to see what you are dealing with. Um, but trust God. That's what I'm saying. Learn to trust God. People are just people, right? And what we do is we can't be putting people in high places that we should have God. You know, even with the people with the best heart, because I got a really good heart, but I mean, I'm okay because I'm prone to mistakes, and I believe in that get back. Okay, and hey, to some people, it that might not be godly, but I mean, that's just how I am. Okay, um, but learn to trust God and know that if God be for you, it don't matter who's against you, right? I think we kind of get caught up in that, and I know with a lot of women, I used to want to have like especially in my 20s, I wanted to have like this core because I was always kind of socially awkward, right? I was real outgoing as a teenager in school, but then as I got older and I was having my children, I had my kids, I became really socially awkward because I was trying to figure out life. And I have to say, I think to a degree, my parent, my mom and my grandmother and my dad and them, they well, mainly my mom and my grandmother, they still kind of controlled my life because they gave me a lot of support. You know, a lot of times when people are financially give you a lot of support, they kind of control things to a degree, right? So I didn't really know what I wanted. I just kind of, when people would say, I think you should do this, I would go, oh, okay, well, I'll try that. I was trying to throw anything up against the wall that I felt like, okay, people that I thought, somebody else thought that it would be good for me. I would go, okay, well, that might be good for me. That might be a good situation for me. Um, and so you have to start getting into believing in yourself. I'm so happy that I started believing in myself at some point or another, and started, just drowning out what everybody else felt like that I should do. And I mean, it was just because they was protective of me. As I was saying before, my mom has a very safe family. They feel like you should step out. I mean, they feel like you should get you a job, okay, like at FedEx, or you be good to get a good government job, and regardless to if it ain't even paying a lot, um, just be safe with that job. And what I found is once I started believing in myself, is that I'm not a real safe person. I don't have, at this point, I definitely don't have issues with stepping out on faith. And stepping out on faith has been such a blessing for me. But it takes believing in yourself, and making the right connections and keeping the wrong types of people out of your life. I can't. I've had friends that I've grown up with. Vanessa is probably the only friend that I still have, and me and Vanessa don't necessarily have the same types of friends. Like a lot of the girls that we grew up with in Clementine, she's still, in contact with. She's actually still deal with a whole lot, and they still cool. And I see them, as they say, dap them up or whatever. But we're not necessarily friends. But Vanessa is probably the only friend that I still have from, she was my first friend. I was 5 years old. Vanessa is the first friend that I remember having because we lived in the same complex. We lived three doors down, and our mothers became friends. And I remember just in the kindergarten and her being in the second grade or third grade, we would always walk to school together every morning. Her brother would walk us to school and walk us home every day. I mean, her mother and my mom still talk several times a week. So you're talking about an over 40 something year friendship, right? But I've had other people that I grew, and that's because Vanessa always did her own thing. She's street, she in the street, but she always did her own thing. She always made things shake for her. I've never seen Vanessa um try and throw dirt on or try to block. I don't think she's ever had that type of spirit because she a hustler. She a hustler. I have to tell her sometimes, look here now, heifer. Don't try to, this is me. You don't hustle me like you hustle them. I have to tell her sometimes, and she'll get to laugh and look here now, ho. You can't hustle me like that now. Okay. 'Cause she a fast talker. But she's been my friend since I was 5. And we don't deal in the same, like she got her own little, like she club and stuff. I don't club. I never have. I've never in my life. I think I've gone to a club one time in Memphis. I think I've gone to a club one time. I've never been a clubber because my mother didn't let me club, right? Um, but I've had to cut people off. I don't know what it is about. I've always wanted a sisterhood with women because I know that, where two or three agree when women come together. And that's why I started my praying line, and we start praying. We start opening up portals and praying down blessings, and doors start opening. But for some reason, I do believe that it's some type of curse. A lot of women have that territorial spirit. We're territorial by nature, but most women don't know how to not allow that jealousy to creep in, right? And so They if it happens for their sister before it happens for them, they tend not to know how to not allow that jealousy and that saboteur spirit to creep in, right? And so unfortunately for me, that's the type of stuff that I've experienced, and that's why I don't have issues with being isolated. A lot of people just don't know how to be alone and do that stuff. I've done so much stuff that has been beneficial to me alone and quietly, right? So don't ever let nobody. Real is absolutely rare. It is real is rare. Um, And so that's why you have to stay prayed up. If you have to do things alone, if you have to sit alone, don't ever let nobody make you feel bad about that. Most people that are destined to do great things spend a lot of time alone. I don't really believe in I do believe let me just say this. I do believe that God has gifted people with the ability to see things in the spiritual, not these evil motherfuckers. Okay. But but I do believe there are people that are born with gifts. Um but I remember when my grandmother passed away. I think I've spoken about this before. I was so because I was so close to my mother's mom. Shout out to you. What's that? King as yo. Okay, from East Memphis. Shout out to East Memphis. I remember when my grandmother passed away, I was so distraught. And at that time I was working for the sheriff's department, and each and every time that of somebody's relative passed away, I was working in the chief's office. So my job was to post it up on the billboard, to let everybody at the sheriff's office know that we had a coworkers who family member had passed away, and the time of the services and the day of the services, so people could go and pay their respects. Well, there came a time when it was my turn, and it was just really, I could not believe it. Like, it was so hard for me. And I remember when the chief was saying, "When are you gonna post up, your grandmother's funeral?" And I was like, "I'm gonna post it up." It was so hard. It was so hard for me to post up her funeral. I could not do it. And he says, "Working well alone in peace is very much a Leo." Oh, absolutely. And so my grandmother had a strong spirit. That's where I get a lot of my feistiness from. My grandmother, because my mother is not feisty, period. My mother is not oh my gosh, she ain't got a fighting bone in her body. Ooh, oh Lord, she's not argumentative. She don't raise her voice. She's just not. And so and so it was really hard for me to do that, to post up her stuff on the billboard, on the billboard. So um I was so worried about my grandmother. I remember, they used to have all these psychic, like, hotlines, right? And I was like, I've never called a psychic before, none of that. But um I really wish I could just talk to somebody that could let me know that my grandmother was okay. And I knew I should not have been dealing with these people that deal in familiar spirits, because the Bible speaks about that, right? And so, anyways, I remember I was sitting at home, I was so bothered. I called this psychic hotline, and I got to looking on the internet. And I was like, I want to make sure I don't want to call nobody that's local or anything like that. So I called this line, and this lady that's appeared to have had, hey Diane, this lady that appeared to have had like an accent, um, answered the phone, right? And she was like, well, I'm not in the United States. And she told me, tell me about your grandmother. And I started telling her about my grandma. And I said, I just want to know that my grandmother is okay. He said, I call Miss Cleo when I look, Miss Cleo got in trouble for telling lies. Okay, they found out Miss Cleo was lying to the good peopleses. And so, anyways, I remember the lady said to me, it freaked me out so bad. That's why I say I do believe that there are people that have gifts, but they're not hell raisers, okay? And when you got a gift, you don't have to tell people you got it, okay? You don't have to holler and scream about the gift that you have. The Bible says your gifts make room for you. If your gift ain't made room for you, it might not. It's something that might not be right. Okay. And so she said so she was like, well, tell me about your grandmother. And I told her, I was like, my grandmother had passed away earlier this year, and I want to know if she's okay. Like if you could, if there's anything, if she's in the spiritual, if there's anything you could tell me, right? And so she said, okay. She asked me my first name, and I told her. And so she says, how many children do you have? It freaked me out. She said, how many children do you have? And I said, I lied to her. I said, I got one. I got one daughter. At that time, my girls were still in elementary school. And so I remember she said to me, she says, okay, she says, I'm listening to your voice and you're going to be very successful. Um, she said, what month were you born in? I said, August. She said, I'm listening to your voice. You're going to be very successful. She said, that started talking about, I see something coming through. And this was way before I started doing like TV, anything. Like me and my dad was beefing around that time because me and my dad both had strong personalities. And we had not started doing business together or nothing. And she says you're gonna be very successful. And she says you're gonna get into like I don't know, like the entertainment business or something like that. And she said you're gonna have a lot of people to come up against you, especially family members, because they're gonna be jealous of your success. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, here it is, right here. Here this lady go. I was saying in my mind, here this lady go. So I know because I'm working at the sheriff's office. My dad is still, and my mama and my dad is still helping me. Because the sheriff's office, when I first started working, they wasn't paying me hardly nothing. And I was like, here she go. And so then ask for your grandmother. She says, I'm feeling it. I'm seeing your grandmother says that she's trying to get to a place of peace, but you are not okay. You keep having dreams about it. Now, it was easy for her to say that because I did have, most people have dreams about their loved ones. And I kept dreaming about her. I kept dreaming about her. I kept dreaming about I was walking through the house and she was in her little chair, her favorite chair. I would always have dreams about that, about her rocking, because she would rock back and forward. And then she says, you told me you have one child. She says, but your grandmother just told me you got two daughters because she's with your youngest daughter right now. And it blew my mind. She said, your grandmother says she's with your youngest daughter right now. She appears to be about 6 or 7 years old. And that's exactly how old she was. I hung the phone up. It blew my mind. It just blew my mind totally. So yeah, I do believe that there are people that it scared me. Then I thought about, okay, so that was like my grandmother died in like 2011. Uh, at the end of 2012, my dad and I reconciled our relationship because we had been beefing. Okay, we would have little moments where we would beef, and I reconciled our relationship, and my dad was like, I'm going to retire and I want to start investing. Um, and he says, I'm going to retire and I want to start investing. And that TV stuff that you said you want to do, because I had just mentioned it to my mother, and my mom said something to my dad. The TV stuff you said you want to do, if you could figure out how to get started, I'll invest in it and buy your network. So that's why and I thought about that. I was like, this lady says that my grandmother was with my youngest baby, and my grandmother and my youngest baby was so close. They were so close. She was like 6. She was 6, about to turn 7 when my grandmother passed away. And the mere fact when she told me that, no, you have 2 daughters because your grandmother's with, and she was at school. The girls were at school. And that blew my mind. So I do believe, like, you know, that there are people that kind of have those gifts. And I'm gonna tell y'all another thing. Like, in the area that I live in, I used to go to this nail shop, and it was this Hispanic girl that worked at the nail shop. And I used to go in, and she would, get my nails and toes and stuff done. Um, I have to stay out of nail shops in my area because they really expensive, so I have to go other places. But she anyway, she when as I started going in there a little bit more, um, I started talking to them a little bit more, and I was telling them about, I had a TV show and stuff. And I was sitting there one day, and they would have a lot of Hispanic people that would come up in there, and a lot of them couldn't speak English or whatever, or they could understand a little bit of it. So I remember one day I went in there. She said, "You remember you told me that you had a show?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "You do shows on missing persons?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Have you ever thought about like having a psychic or something on there?" I said, not necessarily." I said, "Why you ask me that?" She said, "Well, when you were sitting here before, there was old lady sitting in here, and she told me the little town she was from in Mexico or somewhere." And she was like, she has actually solved cases. I took the lady name or whatever, and tried to look her up. It looked like she had solved some type of situations. Um, but yeah, I do believe that there are people that God has gifted. I don't think those people use their gifts for evil, because you got some people that will try to talk about they from God, but they trying to conjure up spirits, evil spirits, to try and do, to try and attack you. And that's why I always say it is imperative too, because you have people that walk around here that are really mentally messed up. Okay, there are a lot of mentally ill people that are totally messed up for real. And you know a tree by the fruits that it bear. A good tree can't bear evil fruit. So if there is bearing evil fruit, the motherfucker is evil. Okay. Um, and so you have people. God's gifts are not evil at all. At all, I'm telling you. You, I would advise, people are so evil now, and folks are so hurt. It's a lot of hurt people. People try to put that on me. I'm not a hurt person. I promise to God, I am a fruitful person. Okay, I might be a little kooky because I be having so much going on. Okay, I be having so much going on, but I ain't crazy at all. I'm not evil. There are so many evil people, and folks have to be very meticulous about when they start dealing with these folks and they start talking about, I can conjure up some spirits to do something to somebody that make you mad, and they wonder why their life is not where it should be. I've never in my life, as mad as I've gotten at people, I've never in my life thought about going to try to get no witch doctor or going down to no grave to try to conjure up and deal with familiar spirits that the Bible tells you to stay away from, to try and do nothing to nobody. I've never thought about trying to get no spells to try to make nobody love me or nothing. I'd rather be left alone. I'd rather be alone before I ever try to go get a familiar spirit to try and hex somebody into loving. Hell, I think less of myself if I knew I had a spell on a man to make him be with me. Okay, anybody should, but people, you got people that are so hurt. This is the type of control demons and stuff that they are conjuring up, and they wonder why their life is stagnant. Okay, they wonder why they are not where they could be, or they just can't tend to move forward. I don't care. I get on here because this is what I love doing, and I'm getting ready to kick it up a notch on some stuff. I am getting ready to kick it up a notch. Um, I got some other stuff that I'm doing. Once I get that done, I'm getting ready to kick it up a notch. The semester is gonna end for me, but I'm going to summer school, okay? Because I'm ready to just go on and graduate. But because I mean this is the gift that God has given me, right? And I intend to use those gifts. And I think that's what people need to get into doing, figuring out who you are and then use the gifts that God has given you. And when you have like naysayers around, girl, you do too much. Okay, that's not, and people do that because they can't do it. You've been blessed with the gift to be able to multitask, a lot of you. And then for girl, you do too much. Do you have a life? Uh, I have the life that I want. See, a lot of times people let people who couldn't carry the water that they carry put doubt in their heads. Okay? They couldn't even carry the briefcase that you carry. But they'll start trying to put doubt in your head because they see the gift on you. If they could do it, they would do it. They just can't. It don't hit the same. And oftentimes it's because you're walking in your calling and they are not. Okay. I always say, in order to do what I do, you got to do what I do. When I see what some other people have and they have it going on, I go, dog, that person got it going on. See, we look at the surface of stuff, but in order to do what I do, I got to do what they do. That means I got to, sometimes they've had to go to school for 100 years. Talking about doctors and lawyers, you got to go get paid for all that schooling. Okay. If it's a businesswoman or a businessman, you don't know about how they was getting up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, or they had to sleep in their car maybe until because they believed in themselves. They knew they was gonna hit a lick. They just knew that they had to go through a season. You don't know what these folks had to go through to get what they have. You see a woman that's got a husband, it may appear that he's giving her everything, but he could be knocking her over across her head. You see a lot of women that envy these women that be with these ball players and stuff because they got all this money. You don't know what she's enduring just to be able to live in that lifestyle. So in order to do what they do, you got to do what they do. That's why I say, in order to you, I get up early every morning. I'm praying. I do about 4 or 5 things at a time. That's just how I am. That's the reason why I probably stay a little stressed, because I like to do everything at one time so that I could finish everything at one time. And it ain't but one of me. But you don't know what these people have to do in the background, whether it's good or bad, to have what they have. But if you got about your own purpose and your own journey, you wouldn't have time to be jealous of nobody else anyways. To me, that just takes up too much time. I don't have time to be worried about what other people do. I wish you well. If it's something I can do, if I can give you some motivation, I promise to God I'm gonna give it to you. But I ain't gonna be jealous of you. I'm gonna wish you well because I'm on my journey. I blazed my trail. I'm blazing it. I'm on my path. Okay. Look at Diane. Diane is getting her master's. Diane says, I have a 92 and a 92 for spring one. That's what I'm talking about. Diane working on her. You working on your master's, right, Diane? Diane working on her master's. Okay. And I remember Diane said to me a few weeks ago, she said, school is kicking my ass. Okay. But guess what? She got a 92 and a 93. She gonna have her master's real soon. It might be some people envious of that. But guess what? If they want a master's, they're gonna have to do what she did. Because it ain't easy to get that master's. So, in order to do what a person does, you got to get up early in the morning and make the sacrifices like they did to do what they do or have what it is that they have. Get about doing that or figure out, stop, even you sometimes just let people motivate you, right? I think when people get jealous of people, it's because they feel like they got something that they can't have. I guess that's why I'm not a jealous person. Because I know whatever it is that I want, I can have. So you'll never see me hating on people. Well, why they doing this? They must not have no life. Now, getting on here, I understand that it is money in this. Okay. I may not be making it now, but I have a bigger goal. You think I'm going to stop getting on YouTube doing content because somebody who probably want to do what I do and can't have an opinion? It's different if somebody says, listen, I don't get on YouTube. I stay away from that. That's not my thing. That's not my niche. I just don't mess with YouTube. Okay. I understand that. That's cool. But even they'll say, but hey, what they do, that's on them. That's a person that ain't no hater. But when you see or hear a person talking about, I just couldn't do it, this, and that, but they stand on YouTube, they got a channel, but it don't hit the same like you, but they got something to say about you. That's a hating ass mother sucker. Okay, you doing the exact same thing. You wish you could do it like that person. You got the exact same thing they got. It just ain't hitting the same. So that's why you have to be very careful about who you listen to. Unfortunately, some people don't understand the downfall of somebody else ain't gonna help their life, but misery loves company. That's why you have to choose very carefully who you choose to walk this journey with, because life is a journey. Okay, life is a journey. Life is a journey. Don't have people or friends or family around you that put negative stuff in your head, that keep you drained, um, want disrespectful. I think it's real disrespectful when I see men and women that are in relationships. And it's still disrespectful to me when I hear men, even if they're saying it in a positive way about their woman. That's my bitch. That's my main bitch. And women allow that. I never thought that I would get to a point where um w- I would see women just blatantly allowing men to be disrespectful to them, and then um and then they still in their inner circles, because I could never be cool or with any man that ever called me out of my name, ever, ever. That is blatant disrespect. Okay. But you find a lot of women that do it. And that's the reasons why a lot of their spirits and stuff are drained. in the house and you dealing with a man that don't have issues when he gets mad at you with calling you out of your name. Okay. And so that's why I say you have to be very careful. And women do it to men too. They would totally lie that bitch, this, that. It's one thing if you ain't cool with them, okay. But it's another thing when you all are supposedly friends, or this is a man that's supposed to be your mate, or a woman that's supposed to be your mate. Y'all don't even respect each other. That's a draining spirit when people are, ghetto BS. People are going back and forth with each other and don't know how to respect each other. So you have to be very careful about who you allow to be in your inner circle, even be in your outer circle, and walk this life with. I understand being on this app, people, it's, I guess people that would not necessarily know me or see me, they get the opportunity to do that. They see my personality, and you know, or they see you in these chats. And although we're all cool in these chats, there are people that are unstable, right? Um, I was thinking about somebody was like, I always say I have a paranoid spirit, and I have a reason to have a paranoid spirit. When on being on TV is different because, and even I had a stalker, or he was trying to stalk me. He was crazy on there, but being on here, you're dealing with all people from all walks of life that have mental illnesses for real. Okay. And they feel like they have a right to show up at your door. I think I told you I had somebody show up at my door. Um, they think they have a right to show up at your door to insert themselves into your life. And so that's why I have the mindset, whether it's a man or a woman, if you show up at my door, you're going to die. It's already been documented. That's not being paranoid. That's just I'm just telling you. I'm going to you if you show up at my door, you're going to die. I got to believe that you want to do something to me. And so it's sad that I have to have that mindset, and I think anybody should, that if you violate my privacy and you show up at my door, you are a threat to my person. I'm going to take you down. Period. Okay? You ain't got no business showing up at my house uninvited. Says, I can't stand old lady. People don't know the halves behind the scenes. But um learn to motivate yourself. Learn to move in silence until it's time to talk about what you have going on. And when God takes you through a season of being by yourself, it's for a reason. Seasons are for reasons. Relish in that, you know. Okay. Don't let nobody make you feel bad or whatever. And do your thing. Okay. Y'all, I gotta be at work. Anyways, you all, I gotta be at work. I don't know if I'm gonna get on this evening. If I might drop some videos because I got some things that I gotta do. Okay, I got some things I gotta do, and I'm gonna meet somebody for dinner tonight. Anyways, y'all, I love you all. Make sure you guys please like, share, and subscribe. Y'all have a good day. Be safe out there. I'll talk to you later.